and welcome to the MetaSpiritualist's June Energy Forecast Report with your girl, ShaYah the Indigo. We're opening up the month with the numerological energy of 13, which breaks down to the number 4. This number is an earth number with a water aspect and will help us to operate with patience, groundedness, and is also asking us to pay attention to foundations and structures that are already being built. On the 14th, the full moon will be in the sign of Sagittarius with the numerology energy of 10, which represents new beginnings and rebirth. The new moon will be entering the sign of Cancer, in which the sun will also be in the sign of Cancer, bringing in nurturing energy with optimism and understanding. This will also bring a sense of safety in the home life and family for the collective. Take a listen. The MetaSpiritualist is guided by the creator of the universe through prayer, meditation, and sound healing. ShaYah, how you doing, boo?
I am blessed. I'm blissed. I'm great. Taking things one day at a time. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, girl. I'm making big money moves. Okay?
Yes.
You know?
Cute Cardi B.
Oh.
I ain't gotta choose. What she say?
Listen, these is red bottles.
Yes.
When I walk up in the store, I can get them both because I ain't gotta choose. Yes, that's how we do.
I love it. I love her. I don't care what nobody say. I love me some Cardi B.
I do too, girl. She is my wild spirit animal.
Okay. For real.
Oh, hit it up, girl. What do we have for the month of June, honey?
All righty. So it's a very simple layout that I have of events. I normally say the opposite. Now, I mean, there is some heavy energy still lingering from last month because we had the 2 eclipses. One of those was in Scorpio, I believe. And then
on my birthday, girl, the universe blessed me heavily on my birthday.
Good.
Yes.
And then recently Pluto went retrograde, which explains a lot of death that's happened. But I'm not going to get into that. But there's a lot of energy filtering in from last month into this month. So this month, you know what's going on here, and I'm going to break that down. It's nice and simple, but we still got a lot of last month's energy here. So just as a recap, on May 29th, we had the new moon in Gemini. We had the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. That was on your birthday. And we know Scorpio energy, eclipse energy is any type of shift that's happening on steroids. It's whatever's already going on, and eclipse intensifies it times 10. And then this eclipse was in Scorpio. And Scorpio's middle name is intense by itself. So there was a lot of breaking down, a lot of purging, a lot of endings, you know, because Scorpio's ruling planet being Pluto, which of course went retrograde recently, a lot of endings had to shake up some things and break down some things. And then we still have Mercury retrograde going on. That started May 10th and is going to continue until June 3rd. And I am ready for this retrograde to be over. I must say, I am ready for this retrograde to calm down because it's been revealing a lot. But it's always for our greatest good. Always, you know, I love the after effects of retrograde every single time because it's like the more intense it is, the more beautiful like the after effects is. The
Yeah.
calm after the storm is always so beautiful. Like it's a real big relief, and it feels like, you know, a breath of fresh air and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, so anyways, I would encourage our listeners to go back and listen to last month just as a reminder, because everything that happened last month is playing a big role in what's happening this month.
Yeah. And remember when we recorded last month's energy forecast report, it was crazy. Like, I never would have thought that it would have taken that long to first record. And it took me even longer to edit.
Oh, no.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. The retrograde definitely showed up. I'm talking about before the first day. It's always building up before, you know, but dang, like it made an entrance like no other with us.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Car troubles. I had some car troubles. Me and my car had a fight with a fence.
Oh no.
I had some problems with some of my home appliances going out. A friend of mine lost his wallet, keys. I almost lost my keys. Like typical retrograde stuff. Like it was happening. And so many people be like, you can't blame everything on the retrograde. It don't got nothing to do with blaming it, because this is stuff that's really happening.
Yes.
Okay.
And listen, if I was not into the astrology aspect of, you know, everything, when stuff like that happens, it's like, dang, why does this always have to happen? Yeah. And if you go back and you look, well, Mercury was in retrograde during this time frame, and this happened to you. It was in retrograde during this time frame, and this is what happened to you. So I think we talked about that before, where, okay, what are some of the things that a person can do to ground themselves and kind of come out of a retrograde unscathed?
Right. Yeah. Well,
this is a reminder for the people who are just coming into what we're doing here.
And to those listening, you know, we might not necessarily come out unscathed, you know what I mean? Because it's going to hit us in some certain ways, especially the endings that is just shifting across the world. It's affecting a lot of relationships. It's affecting a lot of people's home lives, and things like that. So, you know, some of them is going to be painful, but it is still for your highest good. It may seem like, you know, it shook up some stuff and it broke down some things in your life that's painful, but half the time Mercury retrogrades, especially with an eclipse going on, is forcing you to face things that we are hiding from. Everything, you know, that gets purged away from us or ends in our lives has everything to do with our ego a lot of times, and unhealthy attachments, which only comes from ego. Yeah. You know, so some people will say it comes from emotions. Well, no, we're human beings. We're supposed to have emotions. And as a water sign, emotions are important. Yes. You know, I see all these posts, you know, about astrology and things like that. And, you know, you have to be logical and not emotional. No, our emotions are here for a reason. It guides us it guides everything in our lives, really, you know, but sometimes it's not really our emotions that keeps us attached to things. It's our ego. And we have to figure out what in our ego is causing us to be attached to whatever it is. And half the time, or 99.99% of the time, it's childhood trauma. You know what I mean? That's rooted in our ego that causes us to, you know, maintain these unhealthy attachments. And these shifts that's taking place going to break that down, you know. Yes. The universe will make you face things that's not for you. Because if it's not for you, the universe is not going to let you play around with your life. it just doesn't let you do that, especially if you're in tune. And you've done the work, you've had so much spiritual insight to where you know enough about the shifts in just the universe and how these things work. When you reach a certain level of awareness, you ain't no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to self-mastery. So if we're holding on to certain things, even if we've pushed it in the back of our minds, you know what's unhealthy for you. You know what's not right for you. And you know what brings you down and lowers your vibration. We know these things. And a lot of times we still hold on to whatever because of the sake of holding on, not even for a real actual reason.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought that up because my best friend bought me for my birthday. Shout out Ebony. She gave me a little turtle necklace with my emerald, my birthstone in the middle as its shell. And I kid you not, the last several days when I wake up, the first thing that I hear is slow and steady wins the race. And so you saying, you reiterating that there are no shortcuts to self-mastery, it is that it's take your time, work through things and understand what it is that you're doing, because what a lot of people don't understand is that there are different levels to our spiritual journey.
Right.
And if you try to take those shortcuts, that's where you end up in those lower vibratory.
Square one.
Absolutely. You got to start all over again.
Yes. And if the universe has to take you to rock bottom, usually that's the, dark night of the soul moment that we all have to go through. You haven't reached nowhere near any type of level of understanding until you have to go through a dark night of the soul. And that is rock bottom, let me tell you. But, the universe isn't going to take you to that level if you can't handle it. The Bible is very true when it says, God will never put anything on you that you cannot bear. A person is not going to go through a dark night of the soul if they won't be able to survive it. A spiritual person, spiritually in tune, because that's something that a person ain't going to make it out of it if they're not ready for that.
Mercy.
Or if they don't have any knowledge about, how it, we can, because like having the knowledge about it doesn't soften the blow by any means, but it does help. It might even take a while for you to realize, like, this is the dark night of the soul. This is what that is. And then you have to fight. You have no choice but to fight. That's a sink or swim moment. And like I said, the universe isn't even going to bring you to that point until it's equipped you and tested you enough to strengthen you, so that you can endure and get past it. And then when you get past it, that's when it's just beautiful and everything makes sense. And you wonder why you was worried in the first place, and then it makes you even thankful for that phase in your life.
I want to say that I may have gone through a couple of dark night of the souls. Because I've had some really like down rock bottom, how you gonna get out of this? I didn't know what that was though when I was going through it. So now that I'm aware in self-realization and I'm aware, spiritually, it's okay. How can we not prevent those situations, but like, how can we best maneuver ourselves for those? I know you just said about like it's softening the blow because we are aware, but how can we avoid it or prepare for one, or just prevent it altogether?
Well, the whole point of them is lessons. You have to face your lessons, because like I said, the moments that bring you to that point, we already know how we got there. We already know the times when we did something that we knew we shouldn't have done, or, we've accepted things that we knew wasn't for us, or we held on to things that we knew was bad for us, was toxic for us. and you still hold on to it, even with that awareness, even if it's in your subconscious, your spirit is going, your body is going to give you all the signs to let you know what's not for you and what is for you. We get the signs from everything, from everywhere, and we fight it. And so, you know, the dark night of the soul is that moment where the universe had to force you to face whatever it was, to face it, you know, and this could be dark stuff. This could be sexual trauma. This could be divorce. This could be loved ones passing away. There's so many people that I know of where their loved ones are passing away, and these are people that they didn't have good relationships with. And yet this passing affects them and it rocks their whole world. And this is because it's a lesson. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point, is the lesson. We don't want to avoid them. We want to avoid them because if I didn't have to go through them, I'd be the first to say, no, thanks. I'll pass on that, you know, but I don't want to miss the lessons from them. So if I have to go through that, then, you know, once you do go through it, like I said, this is the point where you cannot ignore what you know your spirit wants and doesn't want anymore. No matter how much your ego wants to hold on to it or fight it or, you know, be against whoever, you can't ignore it. You can't put the veil over your face at that point, no matter how bad it hurts. So this the lesson that is really the point of it all. So once you learn those lessons, then that's going to protect you from getting into that space again, you know what I mean? And you're preventing throwing yourself into that type of sinkhole again.
Yeah. Would you say that we as a collective worldwide went through the dark night of the soul with the pandemic?
Absolutely. And we're still going through it.
Yeah.
We're still, it's always collective. Because, you know, that's why these shifts are happening, you know, especially the eclipses. And I'm still remembering the massive shifts from last year. You know, that was, especially when we moved into the age of Aquarius, you know, that was a brand new era. You know, right when that took place was when them folks stormed the Capitol.
Yep.
That's not a coincidence, you know. So it's always collective. Shadow work, dark night of the soul work, everything is always collective, but it's still individual in our own way as us being a piece of this big puzzle.
Yeah.
You know. And the pandemic is that's only just a massive part of a bigger scale to show us more things that was problems in even just the environment, you know. So
but girl, that's good. That's good. I think we need to have we've already talked about a shadow work episode that we still need to do. But would that coincide with a dark night of the soul?
Absolutely, because that's the best time to do it. It's very painful, you know, but that would be the best time to do shadow work. It's good to work on that at all times. But during the dark night of the soul is if you really want to get anything out of it, if you really want to come out of it and win, and you actually learn something that's going to change your whole life, that's a good time to do shadow work. You know, because the I'm just thinking of Scorpio energy. It's all about the dark emotions, you know. They're still useful, even though it's dark. At the bottom of the ocean, there's still life down there, you know, and it shows you parts of yourself that you may not want to face, but it's there. So if you ignore it, and if you don't face it, it's going to wreak havoc in your life. And that bleeds out into all connections that you come in contact with, not just family, not just relationships, everything, work. I mean, how you approach road rage, like it can affect, you know what I'm saying? Like how you deal with stuff like that. It affects everything. So
girl, I'll tell you before, I want to say it was last year it was before we sold our house. I was getting on the freeway, and in the middle of the 60, there was two guys that was holding up traffic. They got out of their car and they was fighting in the middle of the freeway. Like, I'm talking about throwing bows, girl. Like, and
Wow.
that day, there was something that was happening in the ethers. And I was like, that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was during the Mercury retrograde.
It probably was a retrograde. If it wasn't that, it was something dealing with Mars for sure.
Oh, they were out there, girl. They was, one of them had the other guy pent up by the semi truck, and they was going at it. They was going at it.
And you know what kind of lesson that they can end up having from that? They turn around and find out, somebody died or got killed from a road rage incident, or it turns around and it be somebody that's a friend or a family member or something like that. And you know what I'm saying? Like stuff, that's how things happen.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because, and the reason why I was reminded of that situation was because I was on Facebook today and someone shared a reel of two guys getting out of their car at a stoplight fighting, about to fight. And I'm like, Lord, what in the world? Why are people behaving in this manner?
The universe is showing us ourselves. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, that brings me to some of the shifts that's happening.
All right.
So I'm going to go ahead and get into the forecast for June.
Okay.
And starting off with June 1st, 2022, the numerology of that date equals 13, which breaks down to 4. I love that number. That is my life path number.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon will be in Cancer and the sun will be in Gemini. So this Gemini placement is what you just said that made me think of what we have for June. Okay, because I said the universe is making us see ourselves.
The reflection, the mirror.
Right. Because, Gemini is two people that's facing each other. And it's 2 aspects of each twin. One of them is spiritual and the other one is more earthbound. So it's very balanced energy, even though a lot of people would disagree with that about Geminis. But they are very, 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 very intelligent, very smart, very insightful, because they have the knowledge of both the spirit and the world, So, all right. So with the month starting out as a 4, 4 it has a water aspect to it, but it's the number of foundation. It is an earth number. It has everything to do with patience. I'm taking it back to you talking about slow and steady wins the race. That's why this is an earth number. 4 has everything to do with patience. And I say that with a little bit of frustration because with that being my life path number, I think the biggest lesson of my entire life path has been patience, to the point where if I get horoscopes or if I see numbers and I look it up and it says something about patience, I'd be like, I'm tired of being patient. I don't want to be patient no more. I'm sick of being patient. Okay. Like, seriously. But, slow and steady does win the race. And then, highlighting you being a Taurus, that is Taurus energy all day long. You cannot rush things. That is not in a Taurus's nature to rush things. You will be completely out of whack. And with my Mars being in Taurus, when it comes to certain things, I have to take my time. I cannot be rushed when it comes to certain things, because that's like a cuss word to me, like to my soul. Do not rush.
Hurry up.
Yeah, I don't like rushing. When I have to go places or do stuff, what will keep me, like, time management wise, what would keep me on time is that I will get ready way ahead of time just to avoid having to rush. I'm not avoiding being late. I'm avoiding the wacky energy that's so unnerving and unsettling of rushing. Like that bothers me. So that's what's highlighting the beginning of June. June 1st, we want to be grounded. We want to be patient. We want to really pay attention to the structures and the foundations that we have already built or that we're working on building. Because, for a foundation to be a foundation, it has to be sturdy, right? We have the 2. And when you have 2, if you look at a table, if it has 2 legs, it's going to fall. And if you put one maybe in the top right corner and the other one in the back left corner, it might stay, but it's still going to be wobbling, right? To balance itself, because 2 is balanced. But when you have 4, it's sturdy. That's a foundation. All right. So that's what we're building. And this highlights so much because on that day, this highlights a lot about our home life. Because on that day, June 1st, 2022, with that date breaking down to 4 numerology wise, the moon will be in Cancer. And Cancer has everything to do with the mother and your home life and being that nurturer and being that caring person. So that's beautiful energy to go together, with the earth number being 4 and the moon being in Cancer. That's very compatible energy. That's teamwork energy as far as the home being, building the structure and keeping it sturdy, but also nurturing it. Okay. Because the 4, and I'm speaking from experience, can be too stern, can be too rigid. And just a little too much of a perfection. Because if you think of a square that has 4 sides, it's perfect. Perfect. It's even on every side. And the 4, that's how their brain works. They want everything to add up. They want everything to make sense. They're very, very, very organized. And sometimes they get too focused on that and miss the watery aspect of it. Which, like I said, 4 does have a watery aspect to it because it is a spiritual number too. It's very connected to the higher power. But the moon in Cancer is what's going to really bring that balance to our home lives. We're going to want to be more nurturing along with being more organized and paying more attention to our families, especially children. Because the moon is the mother, and Cancer is the mother.
And this is a good time because school is letting out our children, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the families who lost their babies in Uvalde. And it's an eye opener because we still have work to do. Right. And I honestly think that us as spiritualists, I know that we can't eradicate evil. I think we can, but it's going to take more of us on one accord to do so.
Right.
But I'm just thinking of my kids, they're home. I have to figure out what I'm going to do to entertain them, make sure that they're protected, make sure that they're fed and all of that. So this is some welcoming energy for me.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? The sun will be in Gemini during that time as well. We're in Gemini season right now. So the sun will still be in Gemini. So that'll give us the energy. Okay. To do all of this, to tend to our babies. Because I've been thinking, my kids they're going out of town for the summer, but they'll still be here for like the next 7 days before that. And we're going to do arts and crafts. I've been looking up summer activities and like printouts for them to still learn, from a fun aspect, especially my 3-year-old, my autistic baby. They have to and he's a Gemini. So they have to always be learning. They like books. He loves books and stuff like that. So the sun being in Gemini will give us a pretty good amount of energy to add on to the nurturing aspect and the structure that we're trying to build with these babies, and like I said, the moon is the mother. So Cancer, her ruling planet is the moon. So the moon will be at home on the 1st of June. So this is before the new moon and the full moon. I'm just talking about the beginning of June right now, June 1st. So this is how we're kicking off. And like you said, it's perfect energy for us. A lot of people are going into the summer after the school year. So keep that in mind. It's a time to be very active with our babies and nurturing and, getting some structure in their heads. You might have to knock some structure into their heads, because that's what I'm dealing with my almost preteen. Okay. Well, she is a preteen, but my almost teenager. They need some structure. And, with the Gemini energy, that brings the fun to it. And then you still want to be nurturing about it so that they don't feel, you're being cold or too hard on them. Even if you are being hard on them, you still want to have that nurturing aspect. And all of these aspects, the number, the sun, and the moon, it's going to help us do all of that.
Yeah. It's interesting because this weekend, every day, my baby boy was sick on Saturday and Sunday. And I had to not attend a wedding because of it, but I slept almost all weekend, girl. I woke up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock every day. And that's kind of late for me. And by noon, I was so tired. I would go lay down. The baby was coming to lay down with me, girl. We weren't waking up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, "Oh, I should not have done that 3 days in a row, because now, like right now, I'm exhausted. I'm like ready to take a nap."
Yeah. My baby, my 3-year-old, he's been sick too, and that's the perfect excuse to take a nap. I usually don't let him take a nap. I said, this is Gemini. If he get 2 minutes of a nap, this boy will be up all night.
That's my little Gemini. And my husband, one night he was knocked out on the couch. The 2 older kids was knocked out on the couch. They was watching a movie, and the baby was sitting there looking like,
see, yep, them Geminis, they got all the energy. But today he just wasn't feeling good, and I was like, you know what? My baby want to take his nap. I'm gonna let him sleep. He don't feel good. Let me go ahead and slide in the bed and just he needs his mama next to him because he doesn't feel good.
It's cuddle time.
Right. It was only, like an hour. It was only like 30 minutes of a nap for me, but it still was well earned.
Yes.
We can't feel guilty, especially when we're always running and we're getting up at 5 a.m. to cook and clean and dress and do hair. And come on now. You could sleep 3 days in a row till the evening if you want to.
Yeah.
If you're doing all that all the time, because we're mamas. Mamas has to rest.
Girl. Yes.
Got to. Got to.
All right. So what are we going into the middle of the month?
So the full moon is on June 16th. And it'll be in Sagittarius. Yes, our lunar return. And then the sun, of course, will still be in Gemini. Let me make sure. Actually, it's June 14th. I don't know how I typed that wrong. Okay. June 14th, which is my little Gemini's birthday.
Happy birthday, baby.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Oh, I missed the harmony right there.
I hope my mama don't listen to this. I told her she's a vocal coach. She'd be like, y'all should have harmonized right there. Right. Trust me, she's gonna say that if she listens to this. Just watch. But yeah, I don't know how I put June 16th. So June 14th, the full moon energy will still be in effect on June 16th. Okay. So Charge it to my head, not my heart. But June 14th, 2022, the numerology of that date is 10.
Okay.
So 10 is new beginnings. 1 is beginnings. 10 is new beginnings. 1 is birth. 10 is rebirth. Okay. When you get to 9 months, you are at the end of that cycle, that phase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're getting ready to push the baby out. And when you push this baby out, that's just a brand new birth. It already had the beginning with conception, right? It came from the ethers to the waters, the womb. I'm gonna get excited talking about that. Okay. There's nothing more powerful than the womb. Man, let it be known. Everybody that's listening, if you're a woman, okay, listen to this and say it with me. Hear me roar. I am woman, hear me roar. Okay.
I am woman, hear me roar.
Yes.
Ow.
Yes.
Wow.
Ain't nothing more powerful than the womb. Speaking of that, did you hear or did you see about that mom at, that mass shooting in Uvalde? That mom that jumped the fence, honey, and ran into that school and brought
got her babies.
Listen, I said, that's her mama. And
ain't no arguing, ain't no discussion.
Come on.
I'm about action. Let's do this.
Ran in there with a shooter in there, active, and got her babies out. While the cops was sitting there being cowards. But I'm not even going to get into that. Girl. I'm going to leave that alone.
Oh, girl. Okay. So full moon, Sagittarius.
Yes.
Because we haven't talked in a while. This is
I know, right? Man. All right. So I'm going to jump back into it.
Okay.
Full moon, June 14th, 2022. Like I said, the numerology of that day is 10. That is brand new beginnings. 10 has everything to do with Scorpio energy. I always think about Scorpio energy when I see the number 10. It's like light and dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's like on and off. Okay. It's like beginnings and endings, and, which creates new beginnings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the 10. And then it's going to be in Sagittarius. Eclipse season is over with. So this is going to be our lunar return, me and you.
Yeah.
Hey.
We need to come up with a playlist for these events.
That's a good idea. And then, the sun will be in Gemini still. That's wonderful energy together. Sagittarius energy is fire energy. Gemini energy is air energy. And those are two elements that work very well together. Sagittarius energy is very, 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 especially with it being a full moon, you'll have a greater sense of optimism. A greater sense of, now you could be restless. I don't know about you, sis, but with me having my moon in Sagittarius, I can be very restless, especially at night.
Yeah. I'm going to be in the jacuzzi.
Well, enjoy that. I don't have a jacuzzi, but I do have my happy places, my balcony that overviews the lake. And hey, that's where I be at. I hope I'll be able to see the moon from there that day. But and then the sun will be in Gemini. So that's really awesome energy to get things done, to do things that's fun. Air energy and fire energy together is fun. Okay. Like I said, it's optimism. It's and with the 10 being there, this is a new beginning. So we'll be more hopeful and optimistic about, new beginnings that's taking place after a lot of painful and detrimental endings that's happened in the previous, shifts that we've had. This is going to be a really good combination of energy with the sun and the moon with that number 10, because it's only right for that number to be on the full moon with all the endings that's happened. So, now we're in the new beginning, kickoff, and then we can be optimistic about it after being broken and sad and devastated over so much endings and, all of this, purging that's taking place. And then, like I said, with the sun being in Gemini, the energy is going to be the same as when the month kicked off, June 1st. So a lot of energy. We'll have a lot of energy to do things that we didn't have energy to do before. Thank God for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then towards the end of the month, we have the new moon on June 29th. 2022 equals 23. That breaks down to 5. And this is the number of change, right? And so going from the full moon being 10 on that date to 5, these numbers go together. They're connected, right? 5 and 5 is 10. So that's not a coincidence for the full moon to have its cycle go from that day to the new moon being a 5. So because 10 is change energy too, because like I said, 10 is new beginnings.
Now, what date is that again?
The new moon is June 29th, 2022. And the moon will be in Cancer, just like the start of the month on June 1st. So we're going to swing back into that nurturing motherly energy. And the sun will be in Cancer then. The sun will no longer be in Gemini when the new moon comes. The sun and the moon is going to be in Cancer. And this is a new moon. And it starts, the date is a 5. So it's going to be emotional. Let me just warn everybody, this is the sun and the moon in Cancer, and it's a new moon. And this is a number of change, okay, on the date, June 29th, 2022. So this is going to be an emotional event because of changes that's taking place or changes that need to be made. Or because if you see, if you see 555, that means big changes are coming. Doesn't necessarily mean good or bad change. It's significant change, period. Significant. It's massive. It's major. But this is going to be emotional. Well, the sun and the moon in Cancer is going to make it emotional. Okay. So this could be us being emotional about the change. These shifts that's happened in the past, recently leading up to this date from the end of last year to now has brought us some painful changes. You know what I'm saying? Some really changes that has shaken up some things from us, especially people who don't like change. And the universe had to slap us in the back of the head with change. Like, I'm sorry, this is what it is. But with the full moon, being a 10, like I said, it's still new beginnings. We'll see the hope behind it. We'll see the point, right? Because we still got that Gemini there. Gemini is still very insightful. They're very intelligent. They have a lot of understanding. They have a lot of knowledge. So these new beginnings is going to come with more optimism, with understanding of everything that has happened up until that point. And then the new moon and the sun being in Cancer at the end of the month is just going to bring the emotions back around to where, it's a cycle. You know what I mean? It's a moment of grieving for a lot of people when I'm talking about these changes. So, and it's very highlighted in our home life, of course. And, there's a lot of changes that can happen in the home or in a family dynamic. Like I said, a lot of people are losing family members right now, left and right. I'm seeing it a lot, and the greatest. So back to the full moon on the 14th.
Okay.
With the moon being in Sagittarius and the sun being in Gemini, Sagittarius energy, we always have a need to search for something. We're always looking for answers. There's like a never-ending craving to know more about the meaning of life. A lot of people describe Sagittarian energy as philosophical. which they are. If you just sit down and talk with a Sagittarius sun, they have a lot of insight, and they're very blunt. They don't sugarcoat nothing. And that's all because they have a very strong love for the truth. They love the truth. They're all about what's true and what's not, what is and what isn't, what makes sense and what doesn't, what adds up, what doesn't. They're going to speak on both with no filter. Okay, that's Sagittarian energy. I love them. Being a Sagittarius moon, I love me a Sagittarius. Because we appreciate people that's real and that can communicate from an honest space, and you don't have to second guess them or wonder,
right?
You know what I mean? Try to feel out their energy to see who they really are. No, they're gonna tell you. You know. So it's going to be a lot of truth and communication with the sun being in Gemini during that time. Gemini is a communicator. Okay, because Gemini's ruling planet is Mercury. That's the planet of communication. So it's going to be a lot of blunt communication during this full moon. But this truth that, these truths that are going to come out is going to help us be able to communicate from a healthy standpoint with both people or a group of people with the common goal of understanding. We're not communicating to argue. We're not communicating to fight. I'm not speaking to be heard. I'm speaking to be understood, and I'm listening to understand. Yeah. All right. So that's going to be the goal of most. And it's, the sun being in Gemini is going to help a whole lot with that. And then, like I said, there's a philosophical aspect to it. We're trying to get to an understanding of how all of these things connect as a collective in our own personal lives. So that's where a lot of these conversations are going to be centered around. It's how our decisions and our lives and what we do and how we treat others, things that we accept in our own lives, how is it affecting the world, right? And then to close out the new moon, just as, a recap, basically the feeling of safety related to the home life, related to the family life, very homey activities like cooking, gardening. It's like I said, it's going to be very emotional too. And that it has a lot to do with forgiveness, which makes sense of that date being 5, because change a lot of times has to do with breakups or somebody slighting you or rubbing you the wrong way. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to throw them away, but it's something that's going to happen that's going to change things, shift how you look at them or vice versa. And Cancer energy and water energy in general has a lot to do with forgiveness. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on forgiveness for this new moon, with the moon and the sun being in Cancer.
I'm just going to say this right now. I forgive everybody who did me dirty.
Amen.
But I ain't forget. Right. So you stay right over there. Okay.
Okay, so look, it's so funny because the next part of my notes, and this is my notes, this isn't me saying it, okay? It says you should learn to forgive and forget.
Oh no.
In order to avoid depression from thinking too much about things, because that's what happens. And listen, I'm the first person to be like, I'm a Pisces. Okay, forgiveness is a major thing for a Pisces life. Is learning how to forgive and let go of things. But I would be the main person to be like, oh, I'll forgive, but I ain't gonna forget nothing.
No, I mean, but you said something that's very valid. Like, I'm going to forgive and I'll let it go. Like, I'm not harboring on it. Like, when it comes up, I remind myself, I forgave and released this person. Why is it coming back up? Okay. Yeah. Is it something that's happening right now that I need to be aware of so that I don't repeat that lesson? Because that's what it is at that point. It's like,
that's the ego.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about earlier. That's the ego. That means if you've really forgiven them, if you haven't let it go, if it's still there, if it's still in you, and or you still get triggered from certain things and it reminds you and you're triggered, You may have forgiven them kind of, sort of, but you definitely haven't let it go.
Yeah.
And so then you have to face, well, why does it trigger me? Right? Why does it trigger me if you made the decision to let it go?
I'll tell you why it triggered. I'll tell you why it triggered. Because
tell me.
People that are the offender, the ones who have committed the offense, they're trying to rub things in your face to make it seem like you were the wrong one. That's gaslighting. That's manipulation. And so, okay, I am going to be triggered because now you're pissing me off.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I think that's totally different than, you know,
I agree.
The ego to precedence in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
I had a whole conversation with the universe about exactly that. Like I said, like I'm not even telling you. I think it was today. I think it was actually today, earlier today. I'm like, okay, but you're saying that it's the past. I'll let go of the past, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, in the present, these folks is trying their best to trigger me, and it's intentional. And I know that it is, so I'm like, how can you tell me to just turn a blind eye to it? And how am I supposed to not be, but that's when we have to remember to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritually.
So what I started doing is envisioning myself in a white bubble, like there's a white kind of iridescent bubble that's like, hanging around me, hanging around my babies, my husband, my mama, and all of them. And nothing can penetrate that without my permission.
I just read something that said that the other day. I think it was yesterday, actually.
It's real. So I'm just going to put this out there again. Y'all, I forgive you. I release you to your highest good. But you're going to stay over there.
Right.
Okay.
Hold on, wait. Let me read you the next part of my notes right here.
Okay.
It says, look, if I'm lying, I'm flying. So it says, okay, I read the part that says, you should learn to forgive and forget in order to avoid depression from thinking too much about things.
Mm-hmm.
Your perception of the world can be very subjective. Try to create a certain distance. You said stay over there without being bitter.
Yes.
That's why we have to cut that cord, whatever is still there that triggers you, because they can take root and it turns into resentment and bitterness, and that bleeds into all parts of your life that you would never even imagine.
And you work so hard to come out of that.
Right.
That's what the and I'm thinking I'm trying to be very careful with my words here, because I understand in self-realization that the adversary is also me.
Mm-hmm.
I am my own enemy.
Yeah.
So whatever they're doing on external from within me is just mirroring back something that I need to tweak within myself to be a more elevated person.
Right. So it doesn't affect you. So it doesn't phase you. Because it shouldn't. At the end of the day, why does it phase you? Why?
That part. If we're vibrating higher, that shouldn't affect me. And I can tell my story without emotion. I can tell my story without being attached to it any longer. And feeling those feelings that I felt when the issue actually took place. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I feel that we have to definitely acknowledge the offense. And when you've called it out and you've made the decision to detach yourself from the people who made the offense, it's like, yo, you do you over there. You can't touch me, because by the time they think they can get you re-triggered, you elevated so high, and there's people, there's spirits, there's your spirit guides who got your back. Like, I ain't gotta get no revenge, baby. God about to spin the block.
Yeah, facts.
And that's not coming from a place of arrogance or cockiness. It's the real. It's
facts. I mean, look, for the longest time, I was wondering, like, do I really have a spirit team? And are they really helping me? And when I really sat and looked around and thought about some of the things that's happened and how I was saved from catastrophic things at the nick of time, I'm like, they really don't play about me at all.
No, because really your heart is pure.
Yeah.
And only spirit knows that. And people who think that that's what they're projecting, they can only hide it for so long.
Come on now. You know that song, Let It Go by Summer Walker?
I haven't heard that yet. I'm not really keen on Summer and all these new
R&B. Me either. That song, Let It Go, is the only song that I listen to by her besides one other one.
I'm gonna have to listen to that.
She say there's a part where she says, I'm a child of God, so I cannot be touched. And every time I sing it, I'll be like, it's called Let It Go. Girl, listen to it.
I do like that part where she says, trying to get a reaction, and I am a child of God, so I cannot be touched.
Yes. So the card, I wish you could have seen the way that it flew out.
Oh, I wasn't even paying. I'm a girl. Ooh.
The way it flew out was like, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna just read it. How did I lose the page that fast? Okay, so it's the card Yang, like yin and yang. So we have, Yang. Isn't it pretty?
It's pretty.
And it says, because yin is feminine energy, yang is masculine energy.
Come on through, masculine. Girl, let's not get started again. No.
Okay, so it says the masculine principle of movement and creative activity, the power to make things happen, taking action. The Oracle's message says, and this is from my Wisdom of the Oracle deck. I know you have the same deck, don't you?
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that one too.
So the Oracle's message says Yang represents the power of action, the energies that propel the world forward, and manifesting thought and desire into concrete form. Now is the perfect time to act, for you can easily build momentum and make headway. What you want will come to fruition if you proceed confidently. This card signifies new life and is a sure sign that obstacles have been overcome. Woo! There is no reason to hesitate. You are the shaper of your destiny now. Okay, so that part goes along with me saying, right, last month came and, a lot of the shifts that happened before now brought us a lot of endings and a lot of, breakdowns and stuff like that. And now we're at the moment where, with the Sagittarius moon and the sun being in Gemini on the number 10 date, which is new beginnings. This is the new beginning. This is it. This is starting over. This is rebirth. This is where you can do what you want. You can do what you need. And I love how it says,
don't be telling everybody they can do what they want to do. I'm just joking.
I'm just joking. Yeah.
We can do what we want to do.
Facts. All right. Okay. So for you can easily build momentum and make headway. So the building part is what I'm putting a lot of emphasis on, because of that number 4 at the beginning of the month. That has everything to do with building. And then, sometimes it has to do with rebuilding. right? So that's why we're going to have some emotions behind, the number 5 change on June 29th with the sun and the moon being in Cancer. That's why at this point we have to forgive. It happened. Hold up, let me read it again. This card signifies new life. That's a new beginning and is a sure sign that the obstacles have been overcome.
Listen, I'm ready, girl. Woo! I say it every time. I'm ready.
Yes. We ready.
Hey,
Hey.
We ready. Come on. We ready.
Hey.
For y'all.
That is old school.
Listen, I've been listening to a lot of old school stuff, and I just came to the realization that this month represents my 20th high school reunion, which we ain't never had no reunion, girl. I had the worst class, I think. Everybody talking about who going to the high school reunion. Girl, it's crickets from my classmates. I have no idea what's going on.
For my 10-year reunion, I didn't go. I wanted to go. I think I was living in Mississippi at the time, and I could have came down here for it, but
there's a few people that, I'm from Arkansas. There's a few people who are still there that they linked up and went to dinner, but there was no like announcement of it, nothing. And I'm like, y'all, how I've never heard of a high school reunion not ever happening.
I can't.
Get the fudge out of here.
So I pulled Yang and then Yin came out.
Wow.
And you know what? It makes sense because, like I said, the sun and the moon being in Cancer on the new moon, that's the mother energy. So I was like, why did the masculine one come out and the mother did? Because of feminine energy, but she did.
Yep.
So
she was like, hold on. I'm coming.
Right? I mean, come on, sis, what's the odds for me to pull yin and yang?
Yeah. No, that's the universe, girl.
Hold on, let me read that one. That's hey. I ain't gonna never forget that one. That just tripped me out. Okay, so yin, the feminine principle of receptivity. Ooh. Letting someone else make the first move, gathering information and taking in cues, the art of conscious allowing. So we have to go with the flow. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna have to tell you something after this. Okay.
I'm gonna read the oracle's message.
Okay.
And this one says, for yin, it says, this is a time of calculated receptivity as you gracefully await what is coming to you. Gracefully. Patience, y'all. All right. Gracefully await what is coming to you. Ready to accept it when it appears. Patience. Yin does not involve frozen dreams or even resting, but rather consciously allowing things to flow to you. Poised to receive the bounty that will be made available to you.
The bounty?
Yes.
Oh.
Poised to receive the bounty that will be made available to you. It implies sensitivity as you alertly study the actions of others and contemplate how they will affect you and yours. So pay attention.
Okay.
Remember, you must make space for miracles to appear. Be the shaped, not the shaper, and you'll see how quickly your dreams manifest. All right. So, that's just the perfect balance when we have yin or yang telling us to take action. Mm-hmm. And then we have yin saying, chill out and let things flow to you. So that's literally the full moon being in fire and Gemini, Hold on, wait. Sagittarius, the moon being in Sagittarius, sun being in Gemini, and then flowing into the new moon, and it's the water energy of letting things flow, letting go of things, forgiving. Okay.
Yes. Oh. Girl, that feels so warm. I feel it. Like, and I've been saying for the longest now, I just want to be in the flow. I want the
Mhm.
ease. I feel that I've put in so much hard work. It's no
Mhm.
longer about working harder. It's no longer about working smarter. It's about being in the flow.
Right.
So everybody out there that's listening, if you've been putting in the overtime, if you've been putting in the hours to build, get
Woo.
in position to be receptive to the flow.
Yep.
Receptive to the flow.
Your path is clear. You done did the groundwork. You done built the, like the first card said, your obstacles have been overcome. So all you have to do, that was the first card. That was Yang. And then Yin said, let things flow to you.
Yes.
That is a beautiful combination for the first card to say, your obstacles have been overcome. And the second one to say, let things flow to you now. You don't have to work too hard for it now.
No, baby. And I've been wearing this ring. I bought on this little boutique website called it's a little brass ring. This one right here.
Oh, that's
and
cute.
The name of it is River.
Oh.
And I got it because when I was at the spiritual retreat last year, we had dinner at the Riverside Diner.
Mm-hmm.
My horse that I rode, his name was River.
No.
Yes. So I want to be flowing like the river.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, that makes me think of by the still waters.
Yes.
By the still waters.
The still water, but even in stillness, there's movement.
Right. You know, I know, girl. That's water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Oh man, my spirit is so happy right now.
I'm glad. Mine too. I just love your energy. I love that we're on this journey together, and I appreciate you so much. I just love you.
I love you too. You know how I feel about you, man. I can write a novel about you.
Aww.
Seriously. I mean, seriously. If I sat down and just wrote about Marla,
oh God,
it would be like this thick. Okay.
No.
Because this helps me. Even though it's difficult sometimes to balance, just there's too much going on with me being by myself. But every single time it's like, I wish I can't explain it. My heart, let me just say my heart right now, my heart chakra is feeling so much goodness and I don't know what to call it. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm feeling a whole lot of stuff up in here that feels good.
It feels so good.
I'm thankful. I love you.
I love you. All right. So is that it for this month's energy forecast?
I'm thankful to do this again. We will be back again for July.
Yes. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode on the MetaSpiritualist podcast. We hope that this episode provides you with clarity, guidance, and comfort on your spiritual path or faith walk. To dial into our frequency, please be sure to follow us on Facebook at The MetaSpiritualist, Twitter at MetaSpirit21, and of course on Podbean, Apple, Google, the iHeartRadio app, Listen Notes, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio app. We'd like to also invite you to visit our brand new website at www.themetaspiritualist.com. Right on the homepage, you can listen to the podcast, learn more about our platform, and soon we'll have our spiritual shop for all of your metaphysical and spiritual needs. You'll find a page that you can book spiritual offerings. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our newsletter. Each week, I release a new issue that shares a personal perspective and an affirmation for the collective. If you enjoy the content being brought to you, or if you'd like to appear as a guest on MetaSpiritual Talk, feel free to message us at metaspiritualist@gmail.com. Until next time, we hope that you are in peace, harmony, love, and abundance.